All right, so now we're going to take a look at two terms that are often used interchangeably, but they actually don't mean the same thing. And those two terms are accuracy and also precision. So let's define them, and then we'll take a look at some examples to show how they're different from each other. So when we talk about accuracy, what we are looking at here is how close, specifically now, a measurement is to the true value. Okay, so we know what the number should be, for instance. When you make a measurement, how close you are to that true value is an indication of the accuracy. So let's say, for instance, you have a bullseye on a dartboard, for example, and the idea here is to get directly here at the center, right? And you're throwing, let's say, darts at this bullseye. So if you're accurate, what that means is that when you throw your dart, let's say you have some red darts, you're going to get pretty close to the middle, right, to the bullseye itself. That means that you're very accurate in your measurement, or you're throwing up the dart in this case. Precision, on the other hand, is an indication of how close a series of measurements are to each other. So for example, if I have the same bullseye with a dartboard, for instance, and now I throw my blue darts on there. If I throw, let's say, 5 darts in a row, and I see that they are over here, right? They're all over the place. They're not close to each other. So this is not very precise. However, if I throw some darts on here and I see that now, well, they're all clumped together in generally the same location. Well, now those measurements, or those darts in this case, they're close to one another. That would be high precision, right? Because it's replicating. But it's not very accurate because it's not close to the true value, which is what the center of the dartboard is what we're using as our true value, as our target. So ideally what you want to aim for are measurements that are both accurate, meaning you're as close to the true value as possible, and precise, meaning that you make a measurement several times, you end up with roughly the same measurement each time. So let's take a look at a specific example down here. Say three different students are asked to find the mass of an aspirin tablet. Student A, student B, student C, and we know the true value of the mass of the aspirin tablet is 0.370 grams. Okay, so student A makes the measurement 3 times, and they get 0.335, 0.331, and 0.333 grams, right? So these values here for this measurement, these are pretty close to each other. So just by looking at the numbers themselves, we can say that this would be a series of precise measurements because they're fairly close to each other. However, comparing them to the true value of 0.37, right? They're not close to the true value. So it's precise, yes, but it's not accurate. Okay, and if we were to plot that data on a graph, for instance, so we'll focus here on student A. The black dot represents the true value, and the yellow represents the student's values, right? So you'll see here all 3 of these measurements, those 3, are all clumped together, right? So it's fairly precise, meaning they're close to each other, but it's pretty far away from the true value. Okay, so precise, but not accurate. If we look at student B, we can see that the numbers for the mass, when they make their measurements, we have 0.357, 0.375, 0.388. And if we plot those on the graph, we can see that student B, the measurements are spread out. Okay, so they're not very close to each other. So it's not precise. And it's also not accurate, right? They're not close to the true value of the mass of the tablet either. So student B here is neither precise nor accurate. And if we take a look at student C, we look at their values for when they make their measurements for the mass, we have 0.369, 0.373, and 0.371. So these are fairly close to each other, and they're over here. Probably should have used a different color for these, but we'll use green. So all three of those measurements are clumped together, so it's precise. And they're also right around the black dot, which is kind of hidden right here. So it's also accurate. Okay, so ideally, when you make a measurement, you want to make sure, you want to aim for precision, meaning that if you make the measurement multiple times, you want to get essentially the same value each time. And then you also want your measurements to be accurate, meaning that you want to try to get to the true value as much as possible, as close to the true value as best as you can. And that will be dictated by several things. That's dictated by the measuring device that you are using. Okay, how close together are the graduations? How much can you estimate? And that's also dependent upon, your measurements are also depending upon the person making the measurement, right? How good are you at actually reading the instrument? It's one thing to have an instrument with really, really small graduation marks. It's another thing to actually read the instrument properly. So in lab, for instance, you'll get lots of practice making measurements. We want to aim for precision. We want to aim for accuracy in all the measurements that are made.